Jake Morrison's hands were black with engine grease when the distress beacon lit up his scanner. He'd been elbow-deep in a busted hyperdrive for 6 hours, and his back was screaming at him to call it a day. But distress beacons meant salvage, and salvage meant credits he desperately needed. The signal came from an ice moon in the middle of nowhere. No colonies, no stations, nothing but frozen rock and thin atmosphere. Perfect. Nobody else would bother checking it out, which meant whatever crashed there was his for the taking. Jake grabbed his toolkit and fired up his small salvage shuttle. The journey took 3 hours through the black void of space. He spent the time imagining what he'd find. Maybe a cargo hauler with intact parts. Maybe some rich tourist yacht with sellable tech. Hell, he'd even take a busted mining drone at this point. What he found made him forget how to breathe. The crater was massive, like something had punched the moon's surface with the fist of an angry god. Ice had melted and refrozen in strange patterns around the edges. But it wasn't the crater that stopped Jake's heart. It was the dragon. Jake had seen pictures in old Earth mythology books as a kid. Dragons with scales and wings, breathing fire and hoarding gold. Fantasy stuff. Make-believe. Except this thing lying broken in the crater wasn't make-believe. It was real and it was dying. The creature was enormous. Its body stretched longer than Jake's shuttle, covered in scales that shimmered pure white like fresh snow. Wings that could probably span a football field lay crumpled against its sides, bent at angles that made Jake's stomach turn. But it was the legs that made everything worse. The back legs twisted wrong, completely limp, dragging uselessly behind the creature's massive body. Jake stood at the crater's edge, frozen. His brain couldn't process what his eyes were seeing. Dragons weren't real. They definitely weren't real in space. And they absolutely weren't supposed to be paralyzed and bleeding in front of him. Then the dragon's head moved. Its eyes opened and Jake nearly fell backward. One eye glowed gold like a sunset. The other shimmered silver like starlight. And there was something in those eyes that hit Jake harder than any punch he'd ever taken. Intelligence. Not animal intelligence. Not the clever awareness of a dog or a dolphin. This was human-level intelligence. Maybe beyond human. The dragon was looking at him the way another person would look at him, sizing him up, judging whether he was friend or enemy. A piece of broken technology near the dragon's head sparked and crackled. Some kind of translator device, embedded right into the creature's skull. It looked half organic, half machine, like it had been grown there instead of installed. The translator sputtered to life. The voice that came out was female, weak, and filled with more pain than Jake had ever heard in his life. Please, help. Jake's training kicked in before his brain could catch up. He'd spent 8 years as a Navy medic before becoming a salvage mechanic. He'd seen battlefield trauma, explosive decompression, radiation burns. His hands were moving toward his emergency medkit before he consciously decided to move. He slid down into the crater, boots crunching on broken ice. Up close, the dragon was even more impossible. Her scales had a subtle iridescence, and he could see the faint glow of some kind of energy network running beneath them. Biomechanical augmentations were integrated throughout her body, but most of them were dark, failing, dying along with her. What happened? Jake asked, pulling out a neural scanner. He had no idea if it would work on alien biology, but he had to try something. The dragon's breath came in shallow gasps. The translator crackled again. Hunters, destroyed my ship bond, spine shattered, can't feel anything below shoulders. Jake's scanner confirmed it. The damage was catastrophic. Her spine was unlike anything he'd ever seen, some kind of crystalline neural structure wrapped around organic bone. And it was broken in so many places his scanner couldn't count them all. I'm already dead, the dragon whispered. Leave me, don't risk yourself. Jake looked at this impossible creature, this being that shouldn't exist, broken and begging him to abandon her. Every logical part of his brain screamed at him to run. Dragons weren't supposed to be real. The Galactic Concordance had rules about unregistered species. Harboring something this dangerous could get him executed. But Jake had never been good at following his logical brain. What's your name? He asked, pulling out stabilization gear. The dragon's silver eye focused on him with something like surprise. Silver Scale, of the Drakai. Well, Silver Scale, I'm Jake. And I'm a mechanic. I fix broken things. He started connecting neural stabilizers to the undamaged portions of her spine. And you're not dead while I'm here. Got it? Silver Scale made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. Foolish human. The Drakai were declared extinct 10,000 years ago, for good reason. Yeah, well, I've always been bad at following orders. Jake worked faster, his hands steady despite the impossibility of everything. Now shut up and let me work. I need to stabilize your neural pathways before they collapse completely. For the next 6 hours, Jake worked in that frozen crater under alien stars. He used every trick he knew, adapting human medical technology to alien biology through pure stubbornness and improvisation. Silver Scale drifted in and out of consciousness, her breathing gradually steadying as Jake's equipment took over the functions her failing augmentations could no longer perform. When the immediate crisis passed, Jake sat back against the crater wall, exhausted. Silver Scale's eyes, both gold and silver, watched him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "Why?" she whispered through the translator. Jake thought about his daughter back on Earth, who he hadn't seen in 8 years. He thought about all the broken things he'd fixed in his life, and all the broken things he couldn't fix. He thought about what it meant to be human in a galaxy that often forgot compassion. "Because you asked for help," he said simply. "That's reason enough." Getting Silver Scale back to his station was the hardest thing Jake had ever done. She couldn't move her back legs or her tail, which meant hauling nearly 3 tons of paralyzed dragon into a shuttle designed for cargo, not passengers. It took him 2 full days of rigging pulleys and anti-gravity sleds, working until his muscles screamed and his hands bled. But he did it. Because quitting wasn't in Jake Morrison's vocabulary. His workshop station orbited a dead gas giant in a forgotten corner of the outer fringe. Nobody came here unless they were running from something or looking for parts. It was perfect for hiding the galaxy's most wanted secret. Jake converted his massive cargo bay into a makeshift hospital. He strung up privacy screens, installed medical monitors he'd stolen or borrowed or bought with credits he didn't have, and created a space where a dragon could exist without the universe knowing about it. Those first weeks were brutal. Silver Scale barely spoke. She'd lie there for hours, her golden and silver eyes staring at nothing, locked in some private hell Jake couldn't reach. He'd change her bandages, check her vitals, monitor the neural stabilizers keeping her alive, and she'd barely acknowledge his presence. Then one night, around week 3, she finally broke the silence. "I was flying," she said softly, her voice distant through the translator, "through a nebula near the Korvax system. The colors were incredible, like swimming through liquid rainbows. That's when they found me." Jake looked up from the neural scanner he was calibrating. "The hunters. Mercenaries working for the Concordance. They've been hunting my kind for 10,000 years, making sure we stay extinct." Her wings twitched involuntarily, a phantom memory of flight. "They used an EMP burst that severed my connection to my ship bond." "Do you know what a ship bond is, Jake?" He shook his head. "It's a living vessel, grown from our own essence. Part of us. When they destroyed it." She paused, and Jake saw something wet gleam in her silver eye. "It was like losing a limb. Worse. I crashed and my spine shattered on impact. I crawled for 2 days before my body gave out completely." Jake set down his tools and walked over to her. Up close, he could see the faint tracery of scars beneath her white scales, evidence of a long life filled with danger. "Why does the Concordance want you dead?" he asked. Silver Scale's laugh was bitter. "Because we're powerful. Because we refuse to bow to their authority. Because 10,000 years ago my people fought a war for freedom and lost. The victors write history, Jake. In their history we're monsters. Too dangerous to exist." "Are you?" Jake asked bluntly. "Dangerous?" She met his eyes. "Does it matter? You've already risked everything to save me." "It matters to me." Silver Scale considered this for a long moment. "My people valued freedom above all else. We refused to join the Concordance's collective government. That made us a threat. So they framed us as aggressors, as beasts who couldn't be reasoned with. Then they hunted us down, one by one, across 1,000 worlds." Her tail dragged uselessly across the floor. "I'm the last one as far as I know. And soon I'll be dead too. A flightless dragon is no dragon at all." "That's garbage," Jake said flatly. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. That's garbage thinking." He pulled up holographic displays showing her spinal scans. "Look at this. Your spine isn't just bone. It's crystalline neural pathways integrated with organic tissue. I've never seen anything like it. And these biomechanical augmentations throughout your body, they're not replacements. They're enhancements. Your people didn't just evolve, you engineered yourselves." "What's your point?" Jake started sketching on a digital pad, his fingers flying across the screen. "My point is that you're not just biology. You're a fusion of organic and mechanical systems. Which means I can work with that. I spent years building prosthetics for wounded veterans. Neural interfaces that let paralyzed people walk again. I can adapt those principles to your physiology." Silver Scale stared at him like he'd lost his mind. Jake, human neural interfaces are primitive compared to Drakai biology. What works for your species won't work for mine. Maybe not directly. But your crystalline neural structure conducts signals faster and more efficiently than human neurons. That's not a disadvantage. That's an advantage. He pulled up more schematics, excitement building in his voice. I can fabricate quantum-entangled filaments, weave them through your damaged spine sections, create bridges between the severed pathways. Your brain will learn to route signals through the new connections. That would take months, years. And station authorities are already asking questions about your resource usage and power consumption. How long before they investigate? How long before someone discovers me? Jake rubbed his face, exhaustion catching up with him. I'll handle it. I'll lie, borrow money, call in every favor I have. I don't care. Why? Silverscale's voice rose with frustration. Why sacrifice everything for me? You don't know me. You owe me nothing. I'm a stranger from a dead species, paralyzed and useless. Let me go. Save yourself. Jake pulled up a chair and sat down heavily. For a long moment he didn't speak. Then he pulled out his wallet and showed her a faded photo. A little girl with pigtails, maybe 7 years old, grinning at the camera. That's my daughter Amy. I left Earth 8 years ago to work out here. Better pay, I told myself. Send money home, give her a better life. But the truth is I ran. Her mom and I split up and I couldn't handle being a part-time dad, so I ran to the other side of the galaxy. He tucked the photo away. Amy stopped answering my messages 3 years ago. I don't blame her. I'm a stranger to her now. I chose credits and cowardice over being there for someone who needed me. Silverscale's eyes softened. So when you ask why I'm doing this? Jake met her gaze. Because I can't fix what I broke with my daughter. But maybe I can fix something else. Maybe I can actually help someone instead of running away. Maybe I can be the person I should have been all along. The cargo bay fell silent except for the hum of medical equipment. Finally, Silverscale spoke, her voice barely a whisper. What if you fail? What if I never walk again, never fly again? Jake stood up and grabbed his fabrication tools. Then we fail together. But we don't quit. Deal? Silverscale looked at this stubborn, broken human who saw her not as a monster or a legend, but as someone worth saving. Something shifted in her chest, something that felt dangerously close to hope. Deal? She said softly. Jake grinned and got to work. He had a spine to rebuild and impossible odds to overcome. Just another Tuesday in the outer fringe. The surgery was scheduled for a Tuesday morning, but Jake didn't sleep the night before. He couldn't. He stood in his workshop, staring at the spools of quantum-entangled filament he'd spent 3 months fabricating. Each thread was thinner than a human hair, capable of conducting neural signals at near-instantaneous speeds. Beautiful. Terrifying. Completely experimental. One mistake and he could kill Silverscale. Or worse, leave her trapped in a body that could feel pain but nothing else. You look terrible, Silverscale observed from her resting platform. 4 months of physical therapy had strengthened her upper body, but her back legs still hung useless. Thanks. You really know how to boost a guy's confidence before major surgery. Jake checked his instruments for the 100th time. It's not too late to stop this insanity. Jake turned to face her. You want to stop? Silverscale's wings rustled, a nervous gesture she developed. I want you to understand what you're risking. If the Concordance discovers what you're doing, harboring me is one crime. But performing experimental surgery on a banned species? That's something they execute people for, Jake. Publicly. Good thing I'm not planning on getting caught. He rolled up his sleeves. Besides, I've been reviewing the scans. Your neural structure is actually better suited for this than human biology. Your crystalline pathways can integrate with the quantum filaments more efficiently. In theory. In theory, Silverscale repeated dryly. Those are comforting words before someone cuts into my spine. Would you prefer I lie and say it's guaranteed? I'd prefer you admit this is crazy. Jake walked over and placed a hand on her scaled neck. Even through the scales, he could feel her racing heartbeat. It's completely crazy. It's also our best shot. And I'm tired of watching you stare at those wings like they're gravestones. Silverscale was quiet for a moment. Then she shifted her massive head to look at him with both eyes. I've been alive for 347 years, Jake Morrison. I've seen civilizations rise and fall. I've flown through stellar nurseries and touched the edges of black holes. And in all that time, I've never met anyone quite as stubborn as you. I'll take that as a compliment. It wasn't meant as one. But there was warmth in her voice. Let's begin before I lose my nerve. The procedure required Silver Scale to remain conscious. Her alien biology couldn't tolerate any anesthetic Jake had access to. She'd have to endure every second of pain while he worked. Jake made the first incision along her spine with a plasma scalpel. Silver Scale's entire body went rigid. "Talk to me," Jake said, keeping his voice steady as he began the delicate work of exposing her neural pathways. "Tell me something. Anything. What do you want to know?" Her voice was strained through the translator. "Tell me about flying. Real flying, not the technical stuff. What does it feel like?" Silver Scale took a shuddering breath as Jake carefully peeled back scales to access the damaged section of her spine. "It feels like freedom. Like your body stops being a cage and becomes a wing itself. You don't think about the mechanics. You just are. The wind speaks to you in a language older than words." Jake began threading the first filament through the crystalline structure, his hand steady despite his racing heart. "Sounds beautiful." "It is." Was. She winced as he connected the filament to an intact neural cluster. "I used to fly for days without landing. There's a nebula in the Candor system that glows purple at sunset. I dive through the gas clouds and let them swirl around my wings. It felt like swimming through liquid light." "You'll do that again," Jake promised, threading another filament. "Hour 2 of the surgery. Don't make promises you can't keep, human." "I don't." Thread connected to nerve. "Tell me more." So Silver Scale talked. She told him about riding solar winds across star systems. About the song her people used to sing when they flew in formation, a harmony that could shake mountains. About her first flight as a juvenile, how she'd crashed into 3 trees and a lake before figuring out how to bank properly. Jake worked through her stories, through her pain, through moments where she went silent and he worried she'd passed out. But she always came back, always found another memory to share while his hands performed the impossible. Hour 15. Jake's back screamed at him. His eyes burned from the magnification lenses. His hands had gone numb an hour ago, operating on pure muscle memory and stubborn will. "Jake," Silver Scale whispered. "Almost there. Just 3 more connections." "Jake, I need to tell you something." "Can it wait? I'm at a really delicate part here. If this fails, if I don't survive this, I want you to know." She paused, gathering strength. "You gave me something I thought I'd lost forever. Hope. Purpose. The feeling that I mattered to someone. Thank you." Jake's hands didn't stop moving, but his vision blurred with tears he couldn't wipe away. "You're not dying today. I won't allow it. Always so stubborn. It's my best quality." Final filament in place. "Okay, this is it. The last connection. It's going to hurt worse than everything else combined. Do it." Jake threaded the final quantum filament through the most damaged section of her spine, connecting it to the neural cluster that controlled her hind legs. Silver Scale's roar of pain shook the entire cargo bay. Equipment rattled. Warning alarms blared. Then silence. Jake held his breath, monitoring the neural scanner. The filaments glowed softly, quantum entanglement allowing signals to bypass the damaged sections of spine. But would her brain accept the new pathways? Would her body recognize the artificial bridges as part of itself? "Silver Scale?" No response. "Silver Scale, can you hear me?" Her tail twitched. Just slightly, but it moved. Then her left hind leg shifted. Then her right. Silver Scale's eyes went wide with shock. "I can feel them. Jake, I can feel my legs." Jake sat down hard on the floor, adrenaline draining out of him all at once. "Thank God. Thank every god in every system." Silver Scale tried to stand and immediately collapsed. Her legs spasmed wildly, responding to signals but without coordination or control. "Easy." Jake scrambled up. "Your brain needs time to learn the new pathways. It's like learning to walk all over again. We'll take it slow." Over the next hour, Jake monitored her neural activity while Silver Scale experimented with her newly reconnected limbs. Every movement was clumsy, uncoordinated, like a newborn deer on ice. But she could move. After 4 months of paralysis, she could actually move. When she finally managed to take 3 shaky steps before collapsing, she made a sound Jake had never heard before. It took him a moment to realize she was crying. Hey, it's okay," Jake said, though he was crying too. "You did amazing." "I walked, Jake. I actually walked." "You did." He checked the neural scanner readings. "And the connections are holding strong. With physical therapy, you'll be running within weeks." Silver Scale looked at him with both her eyes shining. "And flying?" Jake hesitated. The neural damage to the wings was even more severe. Flying required coordination that walking couldn't touch, split-second calculations and adjustments, perfect harmony between thousands of muscles. But he saw the desperate hope in her eyes and couldn't bring himself to crush it. "We'll figure it out," he said. "One step at a time." What Jake didn't tell her was that he'd already been designing something else. Something crazy. Something that might just work if he was very lucky and very skilled. He was going to give her wings back even if it killed him trying. 3 weeks after the surgery, Silver Scale took her first real steps without falling. Jake watched from his workbench, pretending to calibrate a sensor array while secretly recording every moment. She moved like a drunk person trying to walk a straight line, wobbling and overcorrecting, but she moved under her own power. "Stop staring at me like I'm your science project," Silver Scale grumbled, nearly tripping over her own tail. "I'm not staring. I'm observing. There's a difference. You're a terrible liar." But she kept walking, determined to cross the entire length of the cargo bay. Her legs shook with effort, the new neural pathways still learning how to coordinate movement. Sweat beaded on her white scales. Jake couldn't help but smile. For months ago she'd been paralyzed and ready to die. Now she was walking. Clumsy, unstable walking, but walking nonetheless. The physical therapy became their daily routine. Every morning, Jake would put her through exercises designed to strengthen the neural connections. Leg lifts, balance drills, coordination tests. Silver Scale attacked each one with fierce determination, pushing herself until her legs gave out. "Again," she'd demand, struggling back to her feet. "You need to rest. You're going to damage the connections." Again. Jake learned quickly that arguing with a 300-year-old dragon was pointless. She was more stubborn than he was, which was saying something. By week 6, Silver Scale could walk smoothly. By week 8, she could run short distances. The cargo bay echoed with the sound of her claws on metal as she practiced sprinting from one end to the other. But her wings remained folded against her sides, useless. Jake caught her staring at them late one night. He'd come to check on some equipment and found her sitting alone in the dark, her neck craned backward, looking at her wings with an expression that broke his heart. "Can't sleep?" he asked quietly. "I keep having the same dream," Silver Scale said. "I'm flying again. Everything works. My wings catch the wind and I'm soaring through clouds, free. Then I wake up and remember." Jake sat down beside her. In the dim light, her white scales seemed to glow. "I've been working on something. Jake, we've discussed this. The neural damage to my wings is too extensive. Even with your quantum filaments, the coordination required for flight is beyond what we can repair. Maybe. Or maybe we're thinking about this wrong." He pulled up a holographic display from his datapad. Complex schematics filled the air between them. "What if we don't just repair the damage? What if we enhance what's already there?" Silver Scale studied the schematics. "What am I looking at?" "An AI coprocessor. Specifically designed to integrate with your neural bridges." Jake expanded the display, showing detailed connection points. "Your brain handles the instinct and desire to fly. The AI handles the complex calculations, the tiny adjustments, the mathematical precision needed for sustained flight. Together, you'd have the best of both. You want to put a computer in my brain. I want to give you a flight computer that becomes part of your brain. There's a difference." Silver Scale was quiet for a long time, her golden and silver eyes reflecting the holographic light. "This is even more dangerous than the first surgery. Probably. The integration could fail. The AI could reject my neural patterns. I could end up paralyzed again or worse." "All true. And you've already built it, haven't you?" Jake had the decency to look sheepish. "Maybe." Despite everything, Silver Scale laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound that vibrated through the cargo bay. "You're completely insane." "So I've been told." Jake closed the holographic display. "But I'm not going to pressure you. This is your choice. We can keep working on physical therapy, get you strong enough to live a ground-based life. There's no shame in that." "Yes, there is," Silver Scale said quietly. "Not shame exactly. But a dragon who can't fly is like a bird in a cage. Part of you dies. The part that made you who you are." Jake understood. He'd spent 8 years in a cage of his own making, running from everything that mattered. "When do you want to do the surgery?" "I don't. But I will." She turned her massive head to look at him directly. "You've given me back my legs, Jake Morrison. Let's see if you can give me back my sky." They scheduled the second surgery for the following week. Jake spent every waking hour preparing, double-checking calculations, running simulations, preparing for every possible complication. Then the alarms went off. Station sensors detected 3 ships approaching fast. Military-grade stealth vessels decloaking at the edge of scanner range. Jake's blood ran cold as he pulled up the identification codes. Concordance mercenaries. The same ones who'd come looking for Silverscale 2 months ago. They're back, he said, his voice tight. Silverscale was already moving, faster than Jake had seen her move since the surgery. How long? 20 minutes. Maybe less. Jake ran to his security terminal, pulling up external cameras. They've got a warrant this time. Official concordance documentation claiming I'm harboring a galactic-class threat. You are not helping. Jake's mind raced. The station had emergency protocols, but nothing that could stand up to a full tactical team. We need to hide you in the sublevels again. They'll have bioscanners this time. Thermal imaging. Neural detection grids. Silverscale's voice was calm, resigned. They came prepared. There's nowhere to hide. Jake stared at the approaching ships on his screen. 3 vessels bristling with weapons, carrying enough firepower to tear his station apart. 20 minutes before they docked. 20 minutes before everything ended. Unless an insane idea bloomed in his mind. The kind of idea that had no right working, that would probably get them both killed, but was better than sitting here waiting for execution. How do you feel about field testing? Jake asked. Silverscale's eyes widened as she understood. The AI processor. You want to install it now. We're out of options. And we're out of time. Jake was already pulling the surgical equipment. I can do a rush installation. Skip the safety protocols, do the bare minimum connections. It'll be crude and it might not work properly, but it's better than nothing. Jake, an improper installation could kill me. Or leave me brain damaged. And staying here definitely gets us both killed. He met her eyes. I need you to trust me. One more time. The station alarms blared louder. 15 minutes until the mercenaries docked. Silverscale looked at her wings, then at the approaching ships on the screen, then back at Jake. This impossible, stubborn human who refused to accept defeat. Do it, she said. Fast. Jake's hands flew through the surgical procedure, cutting corners he'd never normally cut, making connections that should have taken hours in mere minutes. Silverscale gritted her teeth against the pain, her claws gouging marks in the metal floor. 10 minutes left. The AI processor hummed to life, integrating with her neural pathways. Data flooded Silverscale's mind. Aerodynamic calculations, wind resistance formulas, flight trajectory algorithms. It was overwhelming, alien, terrifying. 5 minutes. It's done, Jake gasped, sealing the last incision. But you'll need time to adapt, to learn how to use it. Time we don't have. Silverscale stood, her legs steadier than they'd been in months. The AI was already feeding stability calculations to her motor control. Get your gear. We're leaving. Leaving how? My shuttle can't outrun those ships. Silverscale spread her wings for the first time in months. They extended fully, magnificently, crackling with bioelectric energy as the AI system synchronized with her muscles. We fly, she said simply. Or we die trying. Jake grabbed his emergency pack as the docking clamps engaged outside. The mercenaries were here. Time to see if a paralyzed dragon could fly again. The mercenaries breached the outer airlock just as Jake and Silverscale reached the exterior docking bay. Heavy boots thundered through the station's corridors behind them. Shouted commands echoed off metal walls. They had maybe 30 seconds before armed soldiers rounded the corner. The exterior bay doors opened onto nothing but empty space and the ice moon surface 1,000 meters below. Thin atmosphere whistled through the gap, not enough to breathe comfortably but enough to generate lift. Maybe. This is insane, Jake muttered, strapping his emergency respirator over his face. His pressure suit would keep him alive in the thin air, but barely. Silverscale stood at the platform's edge, her white scales catching the light from the distant sun. Her wings were fully extended now, trembling with anticipation and fear. The AI processor hummed in her mind, feeding her data she barely understood. Wind speed, air density, optimal wing angles, thrust-to-weight ratios. It was too much information. Her instincts screamed at her to fold her wings and back away from the edge. I can't do this, she said, her voice shaking. Jake, I haven't flown in months. I don't even know if the AI integration worked properly. We could just fall. We probably will fall, Jake admitted, checking his suit seals one last time. Behind them, the sound of boots grew louder. But I'd rather fall trying than die waiting. The first mercenary appeared in the doorway, weapon raised. Freeze. By order of the Galactic Concordance. Hold on to me, Silverscale said. Her tail wrapped around Jake's waist, pulling him tight against her scaled body. The mercenary fired. Energy bolts sizzled past them. Silverscale jumped. They dropped like a stone. The ice moon's surface rushed up to meet them, jagged and unforgiving. Wind screamed past Jake's helmet. His stomach lurched into his throat. This was it. They were going to die. Then Silverscale's wings snapped open. The AI processor kicked into overdrive, calculating angles and adjustments faster than thought. Her wings caught the thin atmosphere, and suddenly they weren't falling straight down anymore. They were gliding. Badly, wobbling and tilting, but gliding. It's working. Jake screamed into the wind. Holy hell, it's actually working. Silverscale didn't answer. She was too focused on the overwhelming flood of data in her mind. The AI was telling her to adjust her left wing 3 degrees down, shift her weight forward, compensate for crosswind, angle her tail for stability. Each instruction made sense individually, but together they were a symphony she'd forgotten how to conduct. They were still losing altitude. The ice moon's surface was 500 meters away. 400. 300. Pull up. Jake shouted. I'm trying. Silverscale beat her wings hard, following the AI's guidance. Her muscles remembered the motion even if her mind didn't. The quantum filaments in her spine carried signals at light speed, translating thought into action. 200 meters. Something clicked. The AI's calculations and her instincts suddenly aligned, like two puzzle pieces snapping together. She could feel the air currents now, not just as data but as living things. The mathematics became poetry. The numbers became song. 100 meters from impact, Silverscale pulled up hard. Her wings carved through the thin atmosphere with impossible grace. They skimmed over the ice, close enough that Jake could see frost crystals, and then they were climbing. Up into the black sky. Up toward the stars themselves. Silverscale roared, and it was a sound of pure, unbridled joy. She banked left then right, testing her wings. Every movement felt natural now, the AI and her body working as one seamless whole. She wasn't just flying. She was dancing. You did it. Jake yelled, tears streaming down his face inside his helmet. You're flying. You're actually flying. Behind them, the mercenary ships launched from the station, engines screaming as they gave chase. Silverscale saw them coming. The AI fed her their velocities, trajectories, weapon ranges. Cold numbers that meant death if those ships caught them. But ships followed predictable paths. Ships had to obey physics. Dragons didn't. Silverscale dove toward the ice moon's surface, picking up speed until the world blurred around them. The mercenary ships followed, certain they had her trapped. At the last possible second, she pulled up and rolled, her wings folding tight against her body as she threaded through a narrow canyon of ice. The lead mercenary ship couldn't adjust in time. It clipped the canyon wall and spun out, emergency systems screaming. The other two ships split up, trying to box her in. Energy weapons lit up the sky, bolts of superheated plasma that would vaporize her if they connected. Silverscale climbed straight up, pushing her newly repaired body to its limits. The AI calculated each movement, but it was her 300 years of experience that made the decisions. She knew how predators thought, how hunters moved. She'd been prey long enough. At the apex of her climb, she rolled inverted and dove back down, straight toward the second mercenary ship. It was a game of chicken, and Silverscale had nothing left to lose. The mercenary pilot's nerve broke first. He veered away. Silverscale didn't. She dove past him so close that her wing clipped his shield, and then she was behind him, using his ship as cover from the third vessel's weapons. Jake, she said calmly, hold on very tight. I'm already holding as tight as I can. Hold tighter. Silverscale accelerated. The bioelectric energy that coursed through her scales began to glow brighter and brighter, until she was a streak of white light against the black of space. The mercenary ships fell behind, their engines unable to match the combination of organic power and mechanical enhancement. Within minutes they were specks in the distance. Then they were gone entirely. Silverscale leveled out, her wings spread wide, riding the solar wind from the distant star. Jake's arms were wrapped around her neck, his face pressed against her scales. We made it, he whispered. We actually made it. Silverscale's laughter echoed across the void. It was a sound no one had heard in 10,000 years, the laugh of a free dragon in open sky. Where do we go now? She asked. Jake thought about his daughter on Earth. About blue skies and real weather and a little girl who might be willing to meet the father who'd finally stopped running. I know a place, he said. It's got oceans and mountains and clouds you can actually dive through. And there's someone there I need to see. Someone who should meet the dragon that taught me not to give up. Earth? Silverscale said softly. I've never seen Earth. Then let's fix that. They turned toward the distant solar system, toward a blue planet that one of them called home and the other would soon discover. Behind them, the outer fringe and its hunters faded into memory. Ahead lay freedom, family, and the beginning of a legend that would echo across the galaxy for generations. A paralyzed dragon had flown again. And the mechanic who saved her, never knowing for certain she would, flew with her into a future neither of them could have imagined. Two outcasts, one human and one dragon, soaring through the stars together. Finally truly free.